Jenny McCarthy Show. Oh!
Racing to the Finish, My Story. The book is available right now. This book at first wasn't a lot of fun for you to write. Why was that?
Well, I was having to relive some pretty difficult times. I dealt with some concussions at the end of my career and hoped that once I had recovered from them, I would no longer have to think about them. And because anytime you kind of go back to that place, you remember the symptoms, you remember the thoughts in your head and the depression and frustration of it. And I just thought I was, the further I could get removed from that experience, the less I would think about it from day to day. But writing the book, brings it all back. And
sure does.
And it wasn't a lot of fun, but I'm glad it's over. I'm glad the book's out. I'm glad people can read this story because a lot of people, no one really has ever heard this side of it or this much of it. I wasn't as forthcoming during the experience as I am today with the book. So it's I retired a little prematurely, and I think that kind of surprised my fans and the people in the industry of NASCAR, and this book will answer those questions as to why that was the case.
Every author that comes in here, myself included, I've noticed by writing books, it's very therapeutic. I think everyone should write their own story at one time, whether they publish it or not, because really by going back, there is a lot of healing that happens. Yeah,
there is, and I had kept some secrets, and a lot of secrets from my wife, from my family, and certainly from my fans that were supporting me for all these years. And I felt like everyone was owed the truth, and it was time to share what was going on with me. And it made them very angry at first, but I could not I wanted to continue to help people. So my whole angle really is that this guy, Mickey Collins, this doctor in Pittsburgh that helped me get well, when he gave me my life back, it made me feel like I have to pay this man back. What do I got to do? I'm going to just do it all my life. Whatever he needs, I'm going to do it wherever I can go. And so he's encouraged me that by speaking out in the articles and so forth that I have over the last several years, that I'm driving people to him, and he sees people weekly that tell them that they are connected to him through hearing my story. And he encouraged me to write this book. And so by writing the book, though, I would be uncovering some of the things that I hid from my family and so forth through that experience. And so
why did you have to hide it from your family? Was the symptoms you were afraid to scare them?
I was afraid of scaring my wife, and I was afraid of – I felt like that – so I had a concussion in 2012, and I went to Mickey, and everybody was involved in that experience. We got well. We kept racing. We won and had great success beyond that. And during that success, I was crashing and getting sick again and repeating that process every 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And just over from 2012 to 2017 when I retired, there was about 12 concussions in that period that I kept to myself. And so I felt like through the experience in 2012 with Mickey, I had learned what I needed to know to handle this myself, and I could do it, and I could get through it, and nobody would need to know. Nobody was none the wiser. And I started documenting my issues. I'd crash, get sick, write about it the next day, write about it Tuesday, Wednesday, and just started sort of understand how the symptoms were changing and improving. And I felt like that I was managing this problem myself. And I repeated that process over and over and over until it finally caught up with me. And layering concussions together really is what gets you into big, big trouble. So
that's right.
Out of nowhere, I started getting these very serious symptoms of balance issues, and it got obviously to the point to where I could no longer drive a race car, and that's when I had to kind of come clean that I've got a real problem. And even then, though, I didn't tell them about all those concussions leading up to that point. And my fans didn't know about it, obviously, because when I retired, everybody's like, what's going on? Why are you retiring? You got at least 3 to 5 years left. And they thought it was because I had just gotten married and that my wife wanted me to quit, or I was wanting to become a father, and
they
that
needed
was driving.
a reason. Your fans needed a reason.
Exactly. So writing this book is really going to be a release. It's going to help me, get it off my chest and get the fans the information that they deserve, and certainly
and help a lot of people.
Yeah. Again, the sole purpose was to hopefully drive more people to Mickey. And I've already met people just in the past 2 days of touring in New York for the media tour that have read the book and said, man, I had an issue. This speaks to me. And So that's great to hear.
Let me plug the book again. Racing to the Finish, My Story, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale, what is this? Have you had football players come to you and say, hey, help me, I'm having the same issues?
Actually, some drivers have done that. And that's been happening over the last couple of years, and it's a great feeling. I've had drivers, retired drivers, people that are dealing with issues that were connected to to a crash or an impact many years ago. I've had young kids, parents, all sorts of people come up to me looking for how to contact the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and Mickey. And
what does Mickey do that's so different than any other doctor?
He is not. There are other talented neurosurgeons like Mickey across the country. He's the one that I know, the one that I trust, the one that I would, if I had an issue, go see. And so there are other people like him, and he would compliment a lot of his guys. But he would compliment a lot of people in the same profession across the country that are just as talented and knowledgeable. But he's connected to the Pittsburgh Steelers, so he sees a lot of Steelers players, deals with a lot of the problems that they have. He's also connected to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and has a great sort of, a great wealth of athletes that have come to see him over the years. And so he has that knowledge, but he also sees the everyman. When I went into his office, I thought this guy's he's tied to these sports teams, and he sees athletes, and I'm lucky I'm getting to see him as a race car driver. But when I walked into the lobby, there's the little kids, there's the housewife, the plumber,
Wow.
Everybody from all walks of life were in there to see Mickey, and he sees about 18,000 people a year, 25 patients a day. And so, yeah, it's great. And the science is always changing. So what he does today wasn't what he was doing 4 years ago to treat my concussion. In 2012, they were like, put you in a dark room, no cell phones, no TV, no exposure to anything. Shut yourself down until it gets better. Well, now the process and the belief is that you expose yourself to things that trigger those symptoms. So what would trigger my symptoms would be like going to the grocery store or somewhere busy, like a concert. So I would push myself into those environments over and over and over until they no longer triggered those symptoms. So it's been interesting.
That's fascinating.
I know, it's been interesting for me to have been in this conversation with Mickey since 2012 to watch the progress of the treatment and the knowledge of concussions and how to handle them change. And it gives me a lot of hope for myself, but also everyone else in the future as we get further down the road 10, 20 years from now, and what we'll know and how we'll be able to treat these will be incredible. And so
it's such valuable information.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I learned from my own son is neuroplasticity, that the brain can change.
Yep.
And you're not just stuck with damage. The brain can actually repair itself.
Yes, can.
So would you say to parents listening to have their child play football, to continue if they wanted to be a race car driver, or is it something based off your experience you'd say, you know what, no?
No, I think that I would not encourage anyone to stop doing what they want to do, whether it's play sports or race cars. I would encourage them to enjoy that, but be smart about it. And when you do have a problem, do not play through. And when you have a problem and an injury that gets you off the field, be sure to take the amount of time necessary to know that you're clear of that event and that you're well. The problem really is, and these are the mistakes that I made, I played through, I raced with problems, I raced with concussions, and then when I was well from those, I did not give myself enough time out of the car before I returned to the track
to fully heal.
Yeah, so those are the things that I think are really important. You can't shut yourself down and avoid enjoying yourself and enjoying life. But when you do have a problem, just make sure that you make the right decision. A lot of people, though, don't even know there is a Mickey. And a lot of people don't even know there is treatment and help. I even see in my timeline, people will say, man, I'm so glad you're speaking out. I've had concussions when I was younger. I'm still having problems today with that. Well, the answer to that is that you don't have to live with this problem. Even if this concussion was 10 years ago, there are treatments that Mickey has and other doctors like Mickey that can help you get through these problems and not have to live this way. And
that's such good news.
It is.
Can
good
I
news.
ask some of the damage done at the time when you were suffering? Did concussions cause depression also?
Oh yeah, So one of the symptoms that I had was anxiety, and everybody deals with a certain level of anxiety. There's things that make you nervous, and mine was definitely in a social, busy place. I was really nervous being around a large group of people, and so when I got my concussion, if I went to the grocery store, I would freak out and have like an anxiety attack, and I would the balance issues and the eye issues would become really debilitating, and you're wondering whether people can visually see this happening.
Right.
But it was very scary, and the depression for me was feeling like I've got to live this way. You'd wake up every day, and as soon as you opened your eyes, you did a self-check. What is it still there? Is it all still as bad as it was yesterday? And you did this all day long. You analyzed yourself every minute of the day. Is it getting better? Is it changing? And you tested yourself. Everything you did, just the standard daily house chores, anything you did, you sort of graded yourself. And it was such a exhausting process.
Absolutely. And you were suffering in silence.
Yeah. And
I'm sure your wife was probably, when you weren't sharing it with her, was like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with that? You always think it's you.
Yeah. And so once I started to open up and get the information and the tools and the help, the treatment that I needed from Mickey, and Amy was aware, she was very supportive, and she was waking me up every day saying, we're going to do these exercises. We had to do about a 3-hour exercise every single day for about 5 months. And after about 2 months and no movement with the symptoms, no improvement with the symptoms, you kind of want to give up. You just kind of want to throw your hands in there and say, I give up. This is not working. And she wouldn't let me do that. And there was I had some eye problems with focus and tracking objects, and they being stable. If I took a step, the whole room shook.
Wow. And
so riding in a car was crazy. Road signs and everything were just violently moving. It was the
I can't
weirdest
even imagine how crazy that must have been for you.
It was like your eyes become untethered from your head, and they just moved around on their own with every shake of your head. So I was dealing with this for 3 months, and I finally called Mickey, and I said, Mickey, I'm about to give up on this, and these eyes aren't getting any better, and I need you to tell me that you've seen this before. And he's like, of course I've seen this before. I'm like, these exact things I'm telling you about, you've heard a person say this exact thing to you, just describe this exact symptom to you just the same way I'm describing it. He goes, of course I have. I was like, have you, fixed it? And he goes, hundreds of times I've fixed it. We're going to fix it. And Amy'd be like, we're going in the gym. Let's go. Get in the gym the next morning. Back again. And finally, one day you wake up and it's like a light switch. I'm not sure if, everyone responds differently, but I woke up one day after about 3.5 months and my eyes were better. And it was like Christmas morning.
It had to be like a second lease on life.
I was like, holy moly, thank God. Because
wow.
I don't, you as a concussion patient, patient. Suffering from that. Yeah. Your fear is that this is forever. That's your fear. Your fear is that this issue, this headache, whatever the symptom is forever. And some people, I was lucky. My symptoms were 5 months. Some people deal with it for 2-3 years and longer. It's just so heartbreaking, really, to hear people having to deal with these problems for so long, because I know how miserable 5 months was.
Absolutely. I'm going to plug the book again, Racing to the Finish, My Story by Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale, where are you from 1 to 10 in the scale of health? How do you feel?
I feel like a 10 right now. I got well in the winter of 2016. I got married on New Year's Eve that year. And at that moment when I was getting married, I felt clear as a bell. No symptoms, no problems. Going into very busy, complex environments, as obviously getting married was pretty busy and complex and nerve-wracking. And I felt great. I had a great experience at my wedding, which is something I asked my doctor to make sure I was going to be capable of. And I raced the entire next year in 2017. And I raced healthy and finished that year. And that's when I said, all right, I'm done. I'm retired. going on to what's next. So I felt great ever since. Yeah, it's been good. And I'm so thankful.
I'm so happy for you, and I'm even more grateful that people like you go out and tell your story. I've done it with my own son, and when you see the amount of difference you can make, you realize, you know what, if it happened to me, then I'm grateful because I had the balls to go out and share this, vulnerability with everybody. Now that you talked about moving on, you're an announcer on NBC. Do you find yourself having to say like nice things about guys you didn't necessarily like before?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really?
I have to put aside, there's a couple drivers that I don't really like a lot, and I have to put aside my feelings for them, my personal feelings for them, and tell the fan or the viewer exactly what's happening and exactly what this person's doing. So I may have to be really complimentary to a guy that I don't quite respect. And it's easy for me to do because I feel like being honest is important, and the viewer is going to read me right away if I'm not. And so
do most people know who you don't like? Is it kind of common knowledge?
I keep it to myself.
You do keep it to yourself.
I think I should.
And can I ask, a race car driver doesn't like other race car drivers because of their egos or the way they drive? What is the thing that pisses you off?
It's the personality, I think. It's how they treat you, or it's just general interaction, person to person, individual to individual, how they talk to you, and whether they respect you or talk to you poorly.
Is there like smack talking? Do you guys like talk shit to each other?
Yeah, a little bit. There's some of that, and that's healthy. That's good, healthy stuff. And I don't mind if guys wrecked me in my career. I don't carry that around with me all these years. But it really comes down to just decent human decency, and how someone is.
Do people wreck each other? This could sound really dumb, but I'm a girl, so it's okay. Do people wreck someone else on purpose on this level of?
Yeah, it can happen. I mean, it's basically like a shove. In a basketball, if a guy gets shoved, he's going to shove you back, and in the heat of that moment, you make those poor decisions. Yeah, and they happen. They really do. And so if a guy wrecks you, it may take you months to forget about it. And if you're presented that opportunity, that golden chance to put the guy in the fence at a racetrack, maybe weeks later, you're like, oh man, I've got to hold back here, and sometimes you can't help it.
Oh, I bet. And I mean, what is like the drama like with the wives on the stands? Anything?
There's been some in the past,
Yes,
there has been some drama in the past. Sometimes it spills over onto social media, and there's some misunderstandings there, but. So the wives go at it on social media? They're competitive, they love their husbands and they want them to do well, and they're just as competitive, I think, as the men are.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it's good.
So has your wife ever gotten in a fight?
No, she wouldn't do that.
She seems like a really nice lady.
She's awesome.
When did you realize your dad was famous? Because I watched my son having to deal with people come up to me all the time. And when did you realize that maybe not everyone liked him?
Oh, this was probably in 1987. My dad was considered pretty aggressive, and when you beating and banging and pushing guys around and spinning people out, and he didn't even sometimes did it on purpose. He was just a bull in a china shop and in the race car at that particular time in his career. And so we would go to races, and I would hear cheers, and I would also hear a lot of boos, and that's when I realized, like, wow, my dad is somebody special, this guy is, and I fell in love with that same persona that the fans did, and they called him the Intimidator and one tough customer and all that, and he just was blue collar and gritty, and I was just like in awe of him and worshipped him just like the fans did.
I'm sure you did. And how was your relationship with him?
When I was younger, I felt like it wasn't very good. I mean, he was around, and he wasn't, I just felt like I didn't live up to his expectations. And I was young, and I was very, very short. So I was about 5'3" when I got my driver's license at 16 years old. So for a long time, I was really, really short, and I just had this complex that I didn't live up to his like macho.
A lot of sons do.
Yeah. So, and I wasn't racing at a young age. I really didn't start racing till about 15 years old, and I ran 158 races before he ever actually saw me race. And so he didn't know what kind of driver I was, if I was any good, and he wasn't like going to my races like a father saying, try this, do this, try that. He just sent you down the road and you'd come home, and he wouldn't even really ask how you did. You know, he just seemed so involved in his own career and so swept up in everyday business that he didn't have time to really plug into what you were doing. And it wasn't a bad relationship. It was just non-existent for the longest time. Finally, in 1997, I ran a race, and he was there, and I ran well, and it sort of sparked the idea that I might make it and that I needed an opportunity, and I got that opportunity in 1998 to drive his car and won the championship, won some races, and he would go to victory lane, and the whole relationship just caught traction and, you know, did an entire 180, and then we were like together all the time, doing photo shoots and commercial shoots, and we were doing a lot of things together. It
probably helped heal a lot of those wounds.
Yeah, I just wanted to be around him like everyone else, you know. Yeah. I just wanted to be around him, and he was just a busy man running and doing.
Did he stop and say, you know what, I'm really proud of you, son?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had those moments for sure. Okay. I was writing a column for a magazine, and I wrote an article about him and how he made me feel and what I thought about him, how much I loved him and looked up to him. And before I wrote it, or before I released it or published it, I took it up and read it to him. And that was probably the moment where a father and son really took a second to tell each other just how much they loved each other. So I was so thankful to have that moment with him. And I read that to him, and I was like, I'm going to publish this in this magazine. He's like, man, you should keep that for like a book down the road. And I got up and I was going to leave, and he goes, man, you know, we don't talk a lot about our feelings and emotions, but I know exactly how you feel about me, and I really appreciate you reading that to me and writing that article. And I've got it printed and hung on my wall at home.
You do?
And, yeah.
Oh my God, that's such a sweet story.
Yeah, he was an amazing man, and I just admired him so much. So I was glad that we had a couple 3-4 years where we were pretty tight.
Absolutely. You're a great storyteller and an amazing human being just from the 25 minutes I got to talk to you. I could listen to you forever. I can't wait to finish the book. You guys pick it up. Tell everyone you know. Racing to the Finish is the name of the book. My story. It's available now. Dale, please come back anytime, and hopefully in person I can give you a hug. Oh, absolutely. I can't wait, Jenny. Much respect, and appreciate you having me on the show, and have a great day. Thank you. Congratulations on your success, really. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be right back, you guys.
Jenny McCarthy Show. Oh!